going to talk about the Ninja 1000 seating issues that have plagued me since we've picked this thing up. Let's start off with the stock seat. This is the stock seat, and it's fairly firm, decent enough. The only problem, there's several problems with it. One is it's got quite the slope forward, and also there's a ridge on the factory seat where they put this hard ridge in the profile. And what I found that was happening, my thighs, as I was riding, that ridge or that pressure point there would actually cut the circulation off in my legs. So after about 20 minutes of riding, not only was it uncomfortable, but it would also start cutting off the circulation in my legs, so I'd have to adjust and keep fighting it. You know, I could never really get more than 45 minutes before it was just so uncomfortable I couldn't ride anymore. So to solve the issue, what I did, what I've done with a few other seats in the past is I've installed the gel seat. Now this is the factory seat, and if you check my page out, you'll find the gel seat installation video. And what I did in that video was I took the gel seat and I reprofiled it. I don't know if you can see that, but it actually lowers this portion and gives it a more flat profile. But still, I ran out of material. So as I was carving into it, the material was running out, and I didn't actually just want to sit on gel. I wanted a little bit of foam, so there was still like half an inch of foam underneath the gel. It's a 3/4 inch or 5/8 inch gel under there, and the gel's pretty soft, and it does a fairly decent job. But with the gel, which doesn't compress fairly deep, it basically just takes away some of the high spots. But then underneath the gel, there's no foam really to support it and give it that extra cushion. So with the stock seat, like I said, I was getting 20 minutes, half an hour till uncomfortable. And then with the gel, I could get up to about an hour, hour and a half. And it was working out fairly well. But the old adage, the poor man always pays twice. What I should have done right out of the gate was purchase a better seat, and we'll talk about the Sargent in a second. This gel mod, and you'll see it online, roughly cost me about $100 by the time I got the proper staples and order away for the gel seat, and you know, that's not including my time and labor, which I don't count that at all. But there's $100 basically gone. The gel itself was like $68 plus the staples and the sanding pads, all that sort of stuff. So it does add up. We'll talk about the Sargent. Should have got it right out the gate. Money was kind of holding me back at the time, and with the Sargent, right out of the box, you can see that this part right in the front is actually bolstered up. It is risen, and then you look at the seat itself in the back section, and it's kind of cupped. It's cupped this way, and it just raises up to the back, and it's a very gentle curve, and it kind of stops you right there. When you sit on it, and I'll just throw myself on here for a second. When you sit on it, your butt naturally falls to the back side, and it sits there fairly well. So no longer am I sliding forward, and the material, the foam underneath it is fairly firm. It's almost like a stock. You know, like if you push down on this, it's you know, fairly squishy, and you push down on this, a little firmer. But I have a funny feeling that, you know, eventually it will soften up to be similar to the stock seat. But just the profile alone was worth the money. Just having that, I couldn't duplicate it on mine. I think these are actually wider on the edges, and there's actually more meat in the middle, and it just, when you sit on it, it feels natural. I opted for the piping, which is like an extra $20 more, and that's the candy lime, I think it's called, candy lime green, and it fairly closely matches. It's not a perfect match, but and I also got it with the Carbon FX seat material. And the Carbon FX is, it looks like carbon, but it's just a straight vinyl. And you know, I wanted just something a little bit more special than just your standard vinyl. So it costs a little bit more. The biggest letdown in purchasing the seat is that they don't have a Canadian distributor. I had to order it. Sargent, I believe, is coming out of Florida, where they produce these. And the Canadian exchange rate, go Canada. We have a brutal exchange rate, so it was, I believe it was like $1.30 to one of your dollars. So coming out of the store at $2.79, plus they tack on, like in the US it's free shipping, but shipping to Canada is an extra $60 US. And I thought it was all good and said and done, because I thought our tax laws would say, you know, free trade, all that sort of fun stuff. Didn't apply. When it got to our door, they wanted another 40 some odd dollars on top of that. So just getting it here cost me $100, basically US $100 on top of the $2.79. So at the end of the day, it cost almost $450 Canadian. So it is, when you look at that kind of money, it's kind of hard to swallow. But you know, I'm planning on keeping the bike for a long time, so it was basically an investment in my riding comfort. And I'll tell you, I took it out the other day for 2 hours, and it was good. It was really good. After about an hour and a half, I started having to just shift my weight around a little bit, forward and back, and just try and relax a little bit. I'm kind of a hardcore rider, as I won't stop. I'll just keep going and going and going, and next thing I know, it's like 2 hours in and I haven't had a break yet. So I should really take more breaks. So I was looking at the Corbin, and after reading a lot of the reviews, and they're talking about their seat cover, the seat covers don't stand up to weathering very well because they use a natural leather, and on top of that, they find it extremely, I think they said it was pretty firm and heavy, super heavy. Like they said, a lot of people were commenting who've driven with Corbins before that they can't believe that Corbin released such a monstrosity when all their other seats are so perfect. So the Sargent, perfect. I think you know, I'm hoping that they do say that it takes a little bit of time to break them in, and the seat is firm, but we'll see over time. Give it for the rest of the summer and see how it goes. Last thing I did, actually before I bought the Sargent, to make do with that other seat, is I purchased an AirHawk. And I read a lot of comments and reviews about the AirHawk, and I was really excited to get my hands on one. And once again, the Canadian peso These are made in the USA again, and this is the DS dual sport model, and I bought it for the profile. If you'll notice, the profile's kind of wedge shaped. The regular cruiser profile comes out and rounds off more, and perhaps I should have gotten that with the new seat, but when you look at the old seat, you'll see the profile is absolutely perfect. And just throw it on the new seat here, and it's fairly close. There's like an inch gap on either end, but size-wise it fits fairly well. And I actually haven't ridden with the AirHawk on the new Sargent seat yet because I haven't had a need to, but I think if I go on a ride for 3 hours or more, or 2 hours or more, I'll throw this in the tank bag, and if I need it, I'll just throw it on and give it a go. I'm really happy with the AirHawk. Once again, the Canadian peso, Canadian dollar, it ran me almost $300 for this thing. You could buy a regular one, the regular cruiser, and it's, I believe, $180, and this was $229 plus tax, and I had to wait. There was a backlog on it, and I had to wait. I believe it was 6 weeks to get it, so it was a long wait. And the other thing I wasn't too impressed with was not only the weight, but the air bladder that's in it. This is it. And yes, that's all the air you need. There's practically nothing in here, but when I sit on it, it just distributes the weight across my backside. And I have no rear end to talk about here, but I have the sitting bones, the part of your pelvis, the pointy parts at the bottom. They'll walk right into here, and it'll be supported all the way around. So this is really doing a good job, and I'll tell you, when I was getting an hour out of this seat before discomfort, I threw this thing on there and I did a 5-hour day, and it felt like an hour in the regular one compared to 5 hours in this. Now after 5 hours of riding on this, yeah, it makes for a long day, but that's just motorcycling in general. 5 hours is a fair stretch for a machine like this, where it's not a an FJR or a Concours or something a little more ergonomic. Even though this is fantastically ergonomical for not only for daily riding, but for short 2-hour jaunts to a location and 2 hours back. This is the perfect machine, especially if you get into some twisties. But the seats, just thought I'd share that with you. The stock seat, atrocious. Stock with gel, you get an hour and a half comfortably. The stock with one of these, I'm not sure because I didn't buy this until I had the gel in it, but I don't think it makes a difference because this actually sits you on top, so the gel basically just disappears. It doesn't do its job anymore once this is on. 5 hours on this bad boy. The Corbin seat, the Sargent seat, I got 2 hours, 2.5 hours comfortably, and I'll make you a bet once I get this on there, 5 hours, 6 hours really comfortably. Or I'll just ride a couple with this, and I'll throw this on for another 5 or 6 more. The one thing that you'll hear when people talk about the AirHawk is that you do move around on it. Yes, you do. If you're living in LA on Pacific Coast Highway or doing the dragon's tail or whatever, this is not what you're going to have on your bike. But the beauty of this is you can stick it in your tank bag, stick it in your saddle bag, whatever you got, and get it out of the equation. But when you're just standing cruising on the highway, this makes a difference. It takes a little getting used to. When I first got it, yeah, just like everyone else says, you overinflate it, and I just kept stopping and stopping, letting the air out, as every other reviewer talks about, and until you finally get that, you actually go too little, you let a little more air in, and it finally gets to a nice equilibrium. And you'll find that once it's at the proper inflation, you don't seem to roll around as much. It does, it sort of locks you in fairly well. Of course, it's not like sitting on a proper seat, being able to move and adjust yourself into the corners and stuff as you prefer. But if you're heading out for a 5-hour cruise, that's the way to go. So those are basically, I hope you find this review useful and that it answers some questions as to the Sargent seat. I'll throw one more thing in there. The seat was really tight to get in. There's 2 steel bars that are underneath it. It uses a composite plastic pan. It's kind of like the factory, but it's a black plastic. And they got some black tabs that are in there. Really well made, of course. They did a good job. And inserting it, I had to put a fair bit of pressure in to get it to seat. And then to line up the back holes for the 2 bolts, what I found was I really had to push it in, and then I started putting the bolts in. And when I put the bolts in, it started rubbing on the vinyl. So my recommendation when you do that is put the bolts in first, and then push it forward, and then tighten it down equally on either side so that you don't actually have the bolts touching the vinyl. So it didn't damage it. It scratched it a little bit, and I'm not really happy about that. That it scratched it. I think they probably could have adjusted it a little better to because I mean it is a big head on that, and it does instinctively rub on the vinyl. So I think they could have made an adjustment for that on the seat. But aside from that, it's definitely worth the money. Worth $500? Yeah, okay. I'll right at the moment I'm a little a little angry at the cost, and it's sticking in my craw a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think after 2 or 3 years of riding the bike, I'm going to say absolutely it was worth it. So hope you find this informative, and have a safe and happy riding.